Have you ever wondered if swallowing semen is actually safe, or if it carries hidden risks most people don't talk about? You'd be surprised how often this question comes up, not just in private conversations, but even in my own medical practice. Some people see it as completely natural and harmless, while others worry it could spread infections, trigger allergies, or cause other health issues. And let's be honest, most folks don't feel comfortable asking their regular doctor about it. That's exactly why I'm bringing this conversation to you today. I'm Dr. James Wood. For 30 years, I've helped people improve their intimate health naturally. Here on Revive After 60, I answer the questions most are too shy to ask, but need clear, science-backed answers to. So, let's dive straight into it. When it comes to semen swallowing, the internet is flooded with myths, jokes, and half-truths. Some claim it's completely healthy, even full of nutrients. Others insist it's dangerous and should never be done. The truth, like most things in medicine, isn't black and white. It depends on the person, the circumstances, and the overall health of both partners. Now, before I get into the real risks and possible benefits, let me ask you this. What's your first reaction when you hear the question? Is it safe or risky? Do you feel curious, cautious, or maybe even a little uncomfortable? That reaction actually matters because comfort and consent are just as important as the physical safety side of things. Here's what I can promise you. By the end of this video, you're going to have a clear, no-nonsense understanding of whether swallowing semen is safe, when it can be risky, and what every man and woman over 60 should absolutely know before making their own choice. And I'd love to hear your opinion too. Do you think it's harmless, or do you suspect there's more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them. And if you're someone who values straight answers about health and intimacy after 60, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. That way, you won't miss the next conversation we have together. Because trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming up next. Part 1. The nutritional side and myths explained. So, let's start with one of the biggest claims people throw around. Semen is packed with nutrients, so swallowing it must be healthy. Now, technically, that's not completely wrong. Semen does contain trace amounts of vitamins, minerals, proteins, and enzymes. For example, it has small quantities of zinc, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and even fructose, the same type of natural sugar found in fruits. Some people like to joke and call it a superfood, but here's the truth. The actual amount of nutrients is so tiny, it's not going to make any measurable difference in your health. You get more zinc from a single bite of pumpkin seeds and more vitamin C from a sip of orange juice. So, while semen does carry nutrients, it's not some miracle supplement. That's the first myth I want to clear up. If you're swallowing purely for health reasons, there are far more effective and safer ways to get those nutrients from everyday foods. But here's where it gets interesting. Nutrients aside, semen is actually more about intimacy than nutrition. The act of swallowing, for many couples, is tied to trust, connection, and a sense of closeness. That means the real benefit isn't in the vitamins, but in the bond it can create between two people, if both are comfortable with it. Now let's talk about the flip side, the risks. This is where most of the confusion comes from. One of the biggest concerns is the potential for sexually transmitted infections, STIs. If one partner carries an infection like HIV, herpes, gonorrhea, or chlamydia, it can be transmitted through semen. And yes, even if the person looks perfectly healthy, infections can still be present. That's why swallowing semen should only ever happen in a relationship where both partners have been tested and know their health status. Another lesser-known risk is something called seminal plasma hypersensitivity, essentially an allergy to proteins in semen. It's rare, but it does happen. Symptoms can include itching, swelling, or a burning sensation in the mouth or throat after exposure. Some women even experience reactions in the vaginal area, though oral reactions are less common. If someone ever notices unusual discomfort after contact with semen, it's important to bring it up with a doctor. Now, here's a myth I hear all the time. Some people believe swallowing semen can help with things like depression, sleep, or even mood enhancement because of certain hormones it contains, such as oxytocin or serotonin-like compounds. While it's true that semen carries trace amounts of these chemicals, the quantities are so small that they don't survive digestion in any meaningful way. So, unfortunately, there's no scientific evidence to say swallowing can boost your mood or mental health. But I want to pause here and make something clear. Just because it's not a magic cure or nutrient boost doesn't mean the act is meaningless. For many couples, especially those over 60, the intimacy side of sex takes on more importance than the purely physical. When one partner chooses to do this, it can be a powerful gesture of closeness and trust, which in itself can reduce stress, build confidence, and deepen emotional connection. And that is a health benefit in its own right. So, to sum up this part, yes, semen does contain nutrients, but not enough to matter physically. Yes, there are risks, especially STIs and rare allergic reactions. And no, it's not a superfood or a mental health booster. But if both partners are healthy, comfortable, and consenting, it can absolutely play a role in strengthening intimacy. And that leads us perfectly into the next part, where I'll break down the real medical risks you must know about after 60, and how to protect yourself if you choose to engage. Part 2. The medical risks and safety precautions after 60. Now that we've cleared up the myths and touched on some of the general risks, let's really zoom in on what matters most for men and women over 60. Because here's the reality. Our bodies don't respond the same way they did at 25 or even 40. What might have seemed harmless in youth can carry different implications later in life. The first and biggest concern is sexually transmitted infections, STIs. I know I mentioned this earlier, but it deserves a deeper look, especially for older adults. Many people assume STIs are a young person's problem, but statistics say otherwise. In fact, rates of infections like chlamydia, gonorrhea, and even HIV are rising fastest among people over 50. Why? Because older adults often don't use protection. Pregnancy isn't a concern anymore, and safe sex conversations sometimes get overlooked. That means swallowing semen from an untested partner can absolutely expose you to infections. For men and women over 60, where the immune system is naturally less robust, these infections can hit harder and take longer to recover from. The second factor is medications and existing health conditions. Many people over 60 are on blood pressure pills, diabetes medication, or drugs that affect the immune system. If an infection were to spread through semen, it could complicate these existing health challenges. Even something as simple as a sore throat or mild infection can feel more serious if your immune defenses are already working overtime. Third, let's talk about allergic or inflammatory responses. While rare, as I mentioned, semen allergies do exist. In younger adults, the body might handle a mild reaction quickly. But in someone over 60, where healing is slower and inflammation is already more common, the reaction might be more noticeable or bothersome. If you've ever experienced unexpected swelling, irritation, or digestive discomfort after exposure, it's a sign to pay attention and seek medical advice. So what's the takeaway here? It's not about fear, it's about being prepared. Let me walk you through a few safety precautions that can make a big difference. 1. Know your partner's health status. This is non-negotiable. If you're in a long-term, monogamous relationship and both of you are STI-free, the risks are minimal. But if there's any doubt, testing is essential. 2. Prioritize good oral health. Tiny cuts, gum irritation, or sores in the mouth can make it easier for infections to enter the bloodstream. Regular dental checkups and good oral hygiene reduce this risk significantly. 3. Be mindful of your own health conditions. If you have a weakened immune system, uncontrolled diabetes, or are on strong medications, think twice and talk to your doctor about what's safe. 4. Pay attention to your body signals. If you ever notice irritation, nausea, or any unusual reaction afterward, don't ignore it. Most issues are minor, but catching them early matters more as we age. 5. Respect comfort levels. Even if the physical risks are low, remember that mental and emotional comfort matter just as much. If you or your partner feel uneasy about it, forcing the issue can create stress instead of intimacy. Here's the bottom line. swallowing semen isn't automatically dangerous, but it's also not automatically safe. For those of us over 60, the key is making informed, intentional choices. Protect your health first, and then focus on the intimacy side if both partners feel comfortable. And that naturally sets us up for the next important question. If the risks exist, why do some couples still choose to do it? And can there be emotional or relationship benefits that outweigh the concerns? That's exactly what I'll break down in the next section. Part 3, the emotional and relationship side of semen swallowing. So, we've covered the physical side, the nutrients, the risks, and the safety concerns. But here's the part that often gets overlooked, the emotional and relationship dimension. And honestly, this might be even more important than the science. Because at the end of the day, sex, especially after 60, isn't just about biology. It's about connection. It's about how two people choose to express intimacy and trust in ways that feel meaningful to them. Now, for some couples, swallowing semen carries a powerful symbolic value. It can be seen as an act of closeness, a way of saying, I trust you, I accept you fully, and I want to share this moment completely. For men, especially, it can be deeply validating to feel that level of acceptance from their partner. And for women, choosing to do this, when it's fully consensual, can feel like a gift of intimacy, one that strengthens the bond between them. But here's something I want to emphasize. None of this works if there's pressure involved. If one partner feels uncomfortable or forced, the act stops being intimate and instead becomes stressful. And stress, as we all know, is the enemy of both physical health and emotional connection. This is why open communication matters so much. If you're in a relationship where you can talk honestly about what you're comfortable with and what you're not, you're already ahead of the game. I've had many patients over the years tell me that their best sexual experiences weren't necessarily about performance or physical pleasure. They were about vulnerability. The moments when both partners felt safe enough to be completely open. Swallowing semen, for some, fits into that category. It becomes less about the act itself and more about the trust behind it. Now, here's another layer. At this stage of life, many couples are rediscovering intimacy in new ways. Bodies change, energy levels shift, and sometimes erections or lubrication aren't what they used to be. This can leave couples feeling disconnected or even insecure. But when partners explore acts that carry emotional weight, even if they're not physically necessary, it can reignite passion and remind both people that intimacy is about much more than mechanics. Of course, not everyone feels this way. For some, swallowing semen simply isn't appealing, and that's perfectly fine too. Intimacy isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what feels right for both of you. One of the healthiest things a couple can do is to say, this works for me, this doesn't, but I still love and accept you. That kind of honesty actually builds stronger bonds than forcing an act that doesn't feel natural. Let's also not ignore the confidence factor. For men, knowing that their partner is comfortable with this can boost self-esteem and reinforce a sense of masculinity. For women, feeling empowered enough to make the choice, whether to do it or not, can be liberating. In both cases, the decision strengthens confidence, which spills over into the relationship in a positive way. So, to tie this together, the emotional and relationship side of semen swallowing isn't really about nutrients, risks, or even the act itself. It's about the meaning it holds for the couple. If it's consensual, if it's safe, and if it feels right for both partners, it can absolutely strengthen connection and intimacy after 60. If it doesn't feel right, avoiding it doesn't take away from intimacy. You can always find other ways to connect just as deeply. And that brings us to an important final piece of this conversation. How do you actually make the decision for yourself? What's the practical way to weigh the pros and cons, respect each other's boundaries, and come to a choice that supports both your health and your relationship? That's exactly where we're heading next. Part 4. Making the final decision, balancing health, comfort, and intimacy. We've talked about the nutrients, the risks, and even the emotional layers. But now comes the part that really matters. How do you make the decision for yourself and your relationship? Here's the truth I've learned after more than 30 years in this field. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. What works beautifully for one couple may feel completely wrong for another. And that's okay. The key is to balance three things: health, comfort, and intimacy. Let's start with health, because without that foundation, nothing else matters. If you and your partner are in a monogamous relationship, have both been tested, and know you're clear of infections, the physical risks are very low. That doesn't mean there's zero risk, but it does mean you can feel confident that swallowing semen isn't going to harm you physically. On the other hand, if there's any uncertainty, if one partner's health status isn't known, or if there are underlying conditions like diabetes, immune suppression, or oral health issues, then it's smarter to lean toward caution. Health always comes first. Next comes comfort. This is where honest communication plays its biggest role. Ask yourself, does the idea make you feel relaxed and connected, or does it make you feel uneasy? There's no right answer here, but ignoring your gut feeling is where problems start. If you're the partner being asked to swallow, it's okay to set boundaries. And if you're the partner hoping your spouse will do it, it's important to respect their comfort level. Remember, forcing something intimate never builds closeness, it only builds resentment. Finally, intimacy. This is where the decision becomes less about the act itself and more about the meaning behind it. For some couples, it's a powerful gesture of trust. For others, it doesn't add anything special. The question is, does it strengthen your connection? If yes, and if health and comfort boxes are checked, then it could be a wonderful addition to your intimacy. If not, then intimacy can still be nurtured in countless other ways, through touch, communication, laughter, or simply spending quality time together. One thing I always tell my patients is this: intimacy isn't about copying what others do. It's about discovering what makes you and your partner feel close, accepted, and safe. Swallowing semen might play a role in that, or it might not. And either way, you're not missing out as long as you're both genuinely satisfied with your connection. So here's my professional advice. Have the conversation. Sit down with your partner and talk openly, not just about the act itself, but about your feelings, your health, and your comfort. If it's something you both want, go into it informed and safe. If it's something you don't, let that be okay too. Because the real secret to lasting intimacy after 60 isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what's right for you. Now, before I close, I'd love to hear from you. What's your perspective on this topic? Do you see it as harmless, risky, or more about emotional connection? Share your thoughts in the comments. I always appreciate hearing your views, and it helps others who may be wondering the same thing. And if you found this conversation helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Revive After 60, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an honest discussion about health and intimacy after 60. Because these are the topics most people avoid, but they're the ones that truly make a difference in our lives.